And Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll? I am here.
Here. Here. Here. Here. Here. Here.
Thank you. Okay. You all have a copy of the minutes. They were released a little late because of technical difficulties. Are there any corrections, additions, deletions, or anything to the minutes by commissioners? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Still, seconded by Mr. Hardy to approve the minutes as written. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's go ahead and place our votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is correspondence and announcements. Mr. Morris.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you. As Stuart mentioned last meeting, there's been a change in the structure of the city. Stuart's now the Development Services Director, and so he's taken more of a back seat to Planning and Zoning Commission meetings, so I'll be presenting most often for Planning and Zoning Commission meetings from now on. So just a latest update, and that's all I have at this point. Thank you.
Glad to have you. And that's it, huh? Okay, let's start into the hearing. Let me first start by saying this is a public hearing and there is a structured order to this proceeding. The city staff will present each item. There will be time for the commission to ask questions of the staff, and then the applicant will have the opportunity to present their case to the commission. That being done, we will then open the proceeding to the public for their questions and input. I would ask that anyone in the public or of the public that wishes to speak limit their trips to the podium and microphone to one only, keep all comments to less than 5 minutes, and to stay on point and not discuss subject matter that is not pertinent to the decision being considered here today. After public testimony is taken, I will then close the public hearing and bring the motion back to the table for city staff's recommendation, discussion amongst the commission, and eventually a motion to approve or disapprove. The first item on today's agenda is item ID 19-2115. It is a request to rezone a 1,736 square foot portion of golf course parcel I believe that's an I, not a 1. It's a 1, golf course parcel number 1, that was added to tract 134, block 6, lot 7, as shown on parcel plat 37-10 from GC Golf Course District to RE Residential Estates District. Mr. Morris, your presentation, please.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, and Commissioners. This subject property is located in the south part of town, obviously by the golf course zoning near the golf course. It's on the west side of the golf course near the intersection of Magrum Drive and Hagen Drive and Hagen Way. Recently, the property owner purchased a little strip of property from the golf course. The golf course property is zoned golf course, and the subject property is zoned RE Residential Estates. And so this is on the west side of the golf course, closest to the lake. Here's the overview of the parcel plat map that created the piece that was sold off from the golf course, and it was subsequently added to the rear of the subject property here. Again, this shows the golf course zoning here, which this property, when it was added to the RE property, it did not change the zoning of this piece. It remains golf course zoning. So this is a case where there are two different zoning districts for one piece of property. It happens from time to time. It's not preferred, but sometimes it does end up happening. So at this point, the applicant plans to demolish all or most of the house here and rebuild, and then also add a detached accessory structure near the rear of the property. Now, the proposed structures are limited to the setbacks that are allowed for the RE portion of the property. This rezone will allow the property owner then to apply the RE setbacks and uses to the whole property. If this golf course portion wasn't rezoned to RE, then the only thing allowed in the golf course portions would be things that are incidental to a golf course, like landscaping, grading, retaining walls, things like that. So with that, concludes staff's presentation. Open any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions by commissioners of the staff, or of staff? Mr. Morse,
Yes.
or excuse me, Mr. Still.
This is obviously happening in a lot of different properties along the golf course in terms of the acquisition of additional land. This is the first one that I've seen come up for a zoning change itself. Is that the case?
That is correct. And as the staff report indicates, you may see more of these. There are a number of, as you say, Mr. Still, there are a number of properties that the golf course has sold off portions of their property to adjacent RE property owners. And if they want to utilize that golf course portion for something other than what's allowed on a golf course zoning, then they would go through the rezone process.
In the process of doing that and some of these acquisitions that have happened, lot line adjustments that have occurred at the city, has there been any pushback from any of the neighbors outside of this? I've read the citizens letter here, and it sounds like there was only one neighbor that showed up and she had no objections. But do you foresee any potential objections as this goes down the road?
Well, that's difficult. I appreciate the question. It's kind of a difficult question to answer. I would assume it would presume upon it would come down to the specific situation for lot by lot basis or case by case basis. At this point, there's been no opposition to this request. It went through the full public notification process. The property owner held their public neighborhood meeting. It was advertised. It was mailed to property owners within 300 feet. We've had no reports, no contact from any of those property owners. So based on that, it assumes there's no issue from the neighborhood on this particular case.
My concern, I guess, is looking farther down the road. If there was significant opposition from a neighborhood, would approving this create a precedence that you'd be worried about at all?
Well, I don't think it would necessarily create a precedent. I think it would be handled on a case-by-case basis. Let's say someone purchased a golf course property that was, this is an extreme, 100 feet deep. I mean, that's quite extreme, unrealistic, I'm thinking, but
There's a lot of them out there.
It may be something that would looked at in more detail in the rezone process, or what other options. It would be a case-by-case basis. In this case, this property is about 15 feet deep and about 124 or so wide, and it's relatively small increase for that RE zoning.
Thank you for answering the questions.
I would submit to continue on with that thought process that this parcel was available and the same parcel or the same proportions would be available to adjacent parcels typically. And if somebody else was concerned, now I do presume that once we do change the zoning, that the setbacks change to the new zoning, correct? I think you said that earlier.
That is correct.
So if that was going to impair somebody else's sight lines or whatever, they have the ability to do the same thing on their properties, typically.
That is correct, and if they were going to go through, try to rezone their property, they have to go through the same process that this property owner has gone through with the neighborhood meeting, and then of course, public hearing before the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then goes on to the City Council.
We recently had a hearing over a similar situation on a property like this, where the neighbor was in opposition to them purchasing the property. I don't believe it was a rezone at that time. I think this is the first rezone that we've had. Do you recall anything, any more specifics about that one? That was several months ago.
I believe that was, yes, and I believe there was an appeal to the zoning administrator's decision to allow that.
To allow it, that's what it was.
And it came to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission said they agree with the zoning administrator's opinion or approval.
It was the same scenario as this right here.
Right.
Which that basically granted the ability for the zoning administrator to make those decisions unilaterally. It's within his purview. But this is the first rezone that we've had of that attached parcel, if you will.
Yes. And you're right, and just so I clarify for everyone who's maybe listening, that's the first step is to combine the golf course portion that they purchased with their property, and that's a lot combination process.
Correct.
And that's approved by the zoning administrator. That's an administrative approval. This is not administrative approval. This requires full city council action with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. So this is the more public forum for changing the zonings, and this is more impactful than just a lot alteration. This is something that requires city council action and Planning and Zoning Commission approval or recommendation.
Change of land use. Any other questions of staff by commissioners? Is the applicant present? Seeing no applicant, I guess we'll forego the applicant's presentation. I will now open it up to the public. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this matter, either pro or con? Anybody at all? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing, public testimony portion, and bring it back to the table for staff's recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff finds that the proposed zoning map change meets all the requirements set forth in section 140504K6. Based on the findings, the Development Review Committee recommends that Planning Commission recommend approval rezoning the 1,736 square foot portion of Golf Course Parcel 1 that was added to Tract 134, Block 6, Lot 7, as shown on Parcel Plat 3710, from GC Golf Course to RE Residential Estates District.
Okay, we are now at the table for discussion and or a motion. Commissioners, anybody? Mr. Nelson?
I move to recommend approval for land use action number 19-2115, rezoning the 1,736 square foot portion of the Golf Course Parcel 1 that was added to Tract 134, Block 6, Lot 7, as shown on Parcel Plat 3710, from GC Golf Course District to RE Residential Estates District 1.
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Nelson, a second by Mr. McGowan to approve, what is this number? ID 19-2115. ID-2115. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's go ahead and place our votes.
That was painless.
Not done yet.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, congratulations to the applicant. All right, that concludes our hearing business today, except for the call to the public. If there's anybody in the audience that wishes to address the commission on any subject whatsoever, we may not respond, but you may come to the podium and speak your mind. That's our call to the public. Anybody? Hearing none, I'll close the call to the public. Mr. Morris, future meetings?
Yes, Chairman, Commissioner, thank you. The meeting schedule for September 4th has been canceled. We don't have any items for that meeting. The next regular meeting is September 18th, and we will have an item for that. This is unfortunate. I will be out of town that week, so you may get the pitch hitter Stewart on that for that meeting again.
Oh my gosh,
You can reminisce.
You might have forgotten how to do that.
You might have. So, thank you.
Okay, with no further business, we stand adjourned.